Um, so with that introduction, I'm Ross Finman. I'm a co-founder and CEO of AR Spirit. So what we do is mobile augmented reality. So doing augmented reality just with your mobile phones. We all talk about mobile AR, and you need to have it work around in there, looking at the phone aspect, because you can really think of augmented reality as everyone talks about the headsets, but there's a lot of kind of optical issues with that, use cases that I view like a lot of these things will be solved in enterprise. But if you want millions of people to use it today, nothing really showed that more than Pokemon Go kind of getting in like, I forget, what was it, like a couple hundred million dollars made in the first month alone. So we're going to talk about mobile AR and kind of what are some of the challenges with it that prevent kind of wide mass-scale adoption of people having their first augmented reality experience that is more true AR using just the mobile device. So this is kind of an old demo that we had of like, how can you make things like really popular? So then you can imagine like just on your mobile phone, a cat in a shark costume on top of a Roomba. We stole this from a YouTube video about 2 years ago where it got 12 million views in like 2 months. So these are the type of things that people are really going to be experiencing at the beginning, and this lends itself well to fun gaming experiences, kind of marketing and event spaces, to kind of really get people involved in like the first augmented reality uses. But thinking about like, why is this so hard to do? You really need to kind of think about the fundamentals of what the augmented reality problem is. And what I hope to convey to all of you during this time is, like, what are the kind of key things that are preventing this from getting out there? But it really involves a deeper understanding of the physical and the digital world. Now, we've heard about these and combining the two of them a lot in the earlier keynote talks, but really, like, it's really the current state of the art, if you want to look at mobile AR, is taking digital content and kind of putting it on top of the physical world. So there really isn't a real understanding there. So if you can think about like Pokemon Go, it doesn't know what the chair is, it doesn't know what the floor is, it doesn't know what the wall is. So it's really limited in the type of experiences it can have, and that's one of the reasons why Niantic only made it 10 seconds long and why 2 to 3 weeks later, most people turned it off. There wasn't a compelling reason to use it. So if you want to get into like making what we call true AR, is really bringing in the physical into the digital. So then you can like really understand it. And this is the type of problem that we at AR Spirit are working on at this point. Now, one very important distinction to make in all of this is we all kind of keep our mind on the physical world. You put a digital experience in the physical world, what really matters there is, from our perception, what is happening in the physical world. But what really, for augmented reality, all of this happens in the digital component. You're really simulating the physical world and having the digital content interact with it there, and then provide the backdrop that it makes sense to an intuitive person. So what really matters more for AR is the physical going into the digital for you to get the kind of true experiences there. Now, this is a it's a subtle detail, but a very important detail for what I view as the future of augmented reality. Because if you look at like how computation has been done before, humans have like really adapted to computers. So I've been doing my PhD in robotics over at CSAIL at MIT. Like, humans are amazingly good at adapting. So like, I view one of the really wonderful things that have made computers take off is humans have been able to adapt to computers. So like, we've gone, so like, we will hunch over, our whole body posture will change, we'll kind of really adapt and like understand and learn how to use computers. We're especially good at that at the earlier stages in life, which is why I view it's the younger people who adopt the latest and newest technology. But then really like augmented reality begins to put this all on its head and say, now we're getting computers to adapt to the physical world. So this, again, it's a different directional change there, but from a user perspective, humans are looking at the physical world and then they are kind of interfacing it in a very intuitive manner. But now you're getting computers to kind of have the digital world push back onto the physical world. And really, again, this involves the digitizing of the physical world and having this kind of two parallel world things going on. So looking at, like, that kind of sets the stage for the problem. Now, why is this hard? So as I talked about before, like, humans are amazingly adaptable. Like, we handle, like, the number of times that you can pick up a cup and you don't even think about it. Like, for a robot, that's really, really hard. For augmented reality, you need to recognize this is a cup, this is here. But one of the nice things is that kind of offers a different way of thinking about augmented reality versus kind of human interaction. When one computer learns how to do something, every computer can learn how to do something. So then it's, if you solve the problem once for augmented reality, then every augmented reality system, because it's connected, can have that functionality. Now, that then says that, while it is difficult to adapt to the physical world and digitize it, it's once you solve each individual problem, it kind of can build on top of itself and expand from there. Now, these are non-standardized environments. So again, for a traditional computer, you have a kind of the standard framework, which all these humans from different cultures and everything adapting to it. So say you have an augmented reality system that works in kind of a laboratory here. You take it outside, it becomes, or it's nighttime. These are all very changing environments. When you're using just your phone, then it's all standardized, everything is tightly under control. So it's a very difficult problem to have it go into completely non-standardized environments. But one of the nice things is local environments, like you can begin to model them and adjust them in a more local setting. So you really need to understand the physical world and begin to digitize it in very local environments and have algorithms and technology that can begin to adapt on a more local level. And then, at least in our case, we're doing this all on a mobile device, and there's really no good way, or there's really no but for that. That part is just really hard. So thinking about this, you really need to, you can break it down into roughly 3 different areas of kind of what I view are the progression for AR as we begin to develop these killer apps. Like, what are going to be the first technical boundaries that we're going to be going over? So the first one is kind of the most ubiquitous problem that I view will get us up to the next stage. This is understanding the geometry in the world. So this is using, just again, regular mobile phone, single camera, run live. So we made just a little cute demo out in Stata of like a little dragon that you can walk around. And again, this is not fancy headset. This is just hardware that some of you are already videoing me with right now. So. Our animator was lazy, so. Okay. Give me 2 days, then you can have your shadow, okay? Why this is hard. People, little story, so we spent a long time trying to get this working on a phone, and then finally we had this flying squirrel model that was in there. And then we're like, oh, this is it, this is amazing. And then the #1 complaint was, we can't tickle it. And it was just like, you spend, yeah. Like, you spend 6 months, like, getting all the software working. It's like 50,000 lines of code, and everyone's like, but I can't tickle it. And it's just like, okay, so thank you. That's but really, getting back to the main point here, like, geometry is something that is consistent, but then this is not really understanding what is the geometry that you're beginning to model. So that's kind of the next step of, okay, you need to understand what are some of the objects in the world. How do you begin to interact with them? What are the properties that matter to the specific application here? So what here it matters is, okay, you need to know horizontal surfaces, like chairs or something you can put things on. But then here, for this particular game that we're working with a game developer, is you also need to understand the color, because he wants to mine color from the world, and then that can be a resource that you have. So you want more gold, you can put up more post-it notes, so then you can begin to change the world and interact with it that way. But really understanding the objects, the properties of them for the particular applications that you can have is kind of a next step. But then this is going from a generalized, everything in the world has geometry, to what really matters for these particular objects and these applications. But again, once you learn that once, you can learn that for all different environments. And the third thing is understanding interactions. Because we talked about, it's like bringing the physical world into the digital. How can you begin to get these interactions that really make sense and are really intuitive? So this was my avatar, my co-founder set up. Rather wonderful, I'm sure. And then so then you can have like objects that interact. So then it can detect, okay, things are starting to fall over, and then you can have the digital experiences in there begin to interact in a very intuitive way. So then here it's like, okay, dominoes falling over. What's the next thing that should happen? It should fall over. Thank you, Diana. So my co-founder. So just to conclude with all of this, AR is a fundamentally different type of computing. It's not us adapting to adapting to computers. It's going to be computers adapting to the world in a way that we don't, in the ideal case, we don't even know it exists. So I view that's a very important distinction that I view as lost in a lot of the kind of talks that I've seen and the articles I've seen written about it. Two, this is like, again, building off the first point, this is like really the inflection point. So what happens beyond augmented reality? You're having more and more computers adapt to the world. Then you start to get into robotics, and you start to have a lot more capabilities of what computers can do. So then we've been digitizing everything, and then now you're starting to get it that it can interact. And third thing, AR requires, or because of this kind of different way of looking at the world, it requires a long-term kind of technical awareness than any other computing platform. So it's not, like right now, how many silicon engineers are there out there in the world that are developing this? They're all kind of specialized at Intel. I at least view for augmented reality moving forward, you're still gonna have to have that cutting edge technical awareness for longer periods of time than other computing platforms. So then you need to understand what are the technical limitations and also the applications together, rather than, okay, Intel solved this problem in the 80s, now they're refining it, we don't know what's going on there. You need to have an understanding of it. So with that, I'd like to thank you all. And that's the one thing that everyone's gonna remember, but yeah. Feel free to email me, and I can show you demos later on.